Oh, hello, my friends. Oh, you think your teacher is crazy? No, I'm having a lot of fun. I am playing with my friends. These are my imaginary friends. I'm going to put them down, and then we will speak about imaginary friends. So let me put them down quickly. Did you enjoy my playing with my friends? I had a lot of fun. I'm sure when you are playing with your toys, then you are having a lot of fun. For example, the boys, when you are riding your cars, and when you're playing with your superhero toys, and the girls, when you are playing with your dolls, oh, pretty, pretty little doll. What are you doing when you are playing like this? You are using your imagination. It is not a real world. We call this world a fantasy world. And in a fantasy world, things could not happen. It's in your imagination. You make up your stories as you are playing. Now we can apply this fantasy when we read some stories. Now, do you remember our first story? What is a pal? The genre of that story is informational text. And what is informational text all about? Aha! Informational text tells us the facts about what we are reading. It tells us about real life, information about real things. In our second story, called The Storm, what is the genre of the story? The genre of The Storm is realistic fiction. And what is realistic fiction? Realistic fiction, we take something that could happen in real life and we make a little story about it. For example, a storm. We know that storms happen in real life. So we take this storm and we make a story about a storm. And we call this realistic fiction. Now, today we are speaking about a different genre. And the genre is called fantasy. And what is fantasy? Fantasy is a story that could not happen in real life. It happens here in your imagination. As you are playing, you make up your own story. It's your little fantasy world. You make all these sounds and all the actions. In fantasy stories, we are going to read about animals that act like real people. Yes, that's fantasy. Imagine a monkey talking. Yeah, can you imagine a monkey talking? Or your little dog talking with you? Oh, hello, Ahmed. Oh, hello, Farouk. Animals can't talk. What about your little cat? Meow. Fatima. Meow. How are you? Can a cat talk? No. A cat cannot speak the language that we speak. They cannot do the things that we do. They are animals. So when I do this in my playing, we call it imagination. It's imaginary games, imaginary stories, and we call it fantasy. Now, our next story is a fantasy story. Let us speak briefly about school. What do children do at school? They do a lot of things. They read books. They sing songs. They paint. They draw. They learn how to write letters and words. They also play and have a lot of fun. So there are many things that children do at school. Now, our story is called Curious George at School. Curious George at School. It's a story about a monkey. The monkey's name is George. And George is very curious. Now, what is the meaning of the word curious? Curious means when you ask a lot of questions. For example, Daddy, what is this? Mommy, what is this? Dad, can I help you there? Mom, what are you doing? You are always asking questions because you want to know. And a person who always asks questions and want to know things, that person is curious. Curious. So in our story, George the monkey is very, very curious. He wants to know a lot of things. And we are going to see what happens in the story called Curious George at School. I'm excited to read the story. I hope you are excited too. Okay, boys and girls, are you ready for the story? Right. On the screen, there is the title of the story. Remember, title is the name of the story. So what is the title of the story? Curious George at School. Now somebody had to write the story. Who wrote the story? Look at the name. Margaret and H.A. Ray. So two people came together to give us this story. Margaret and H.A. Ray. They are the ones who put the story together. We can call them the authors or the creators. Create. When you create, you make something. Okay? So in this story, we are going to call them the creators. But it also means authors, because they put the story together. And the last question I want to ask you, what do you think the essential question could be for a story like this. Okay, George is going to school. Why is George going to school? Why do you go to school? Why do I, as a teacher, come to school? So I think school has to be important in our lives. Don't you agree? So our essential question is, why is going to school important? So while we read the story, think about this question. Why is going to school important? Right, boys and girls, let us read the story. This is George. He can help a lot. George can sing. He is funny. He can see the paints. Mix, mix, mix a bit. Mix, mix, mix a lot. It is a big mess. George ran. What did he find? He got a mop. He had a big job to do. No! It is a big, big mess. George is sad, sad, sad. Kids help him do a big job. They can help him a lot. He is not sad. And that is the end of our story. It wasn't a long story, a very short story, a fantasy story about curious George. Wow, thank you very much, boys and girls. Don't forget to hit our like button and feel free to subscribe to our channel. Goodbye, everyone.